Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into an intense and gripping story called Revenge Road, a tale that explores pain, loss, and the burning desire for justice that turns into something far more dangerous. This story isn't just about vengeance. It's about the cost of anger, the power of forgiveness, and the haunting consequences that follow when revenge becomes your only purpose. It all begins on a quiet stretch of road outside a small town. A man named Ethan Cole, once a decorated soldier, drives through the night with a storm brewing inside him. The world has taken everything from him: his wife, his peace, and his faith in humanity. A single tragedy had shattered his world, and since that day, Ethan had been consumed by one thought: to find the people responsible and make them pay. His journey isn't just on the asphalt of a lonely road. It's on a darker, more treacherous path inside his own mind. Ethan wasn't always this way. Before the tragedy, he lived a simple, honest life. He loved his wife deeply, spent weekends fixing his old truck, and found meaning in small things: a good meal, laughter, and quiet evenings under the stars. But one night, everything changed. A group of criminals, running from a botched robbery, crashed into his car on that same road. The impact was brutal, and while Ethan survived, his wife didn't. The men responsible disappeared, leaving nothing but broken glass, twisted metal, and a heart full of rage. For months, Ethan wandered between grief and madness. The police tried, but justice never came. There were no witnesses, no leads, no closure. The world moved on, but Ethan couldn't. That's when he decided to take matters into his own hands. He turned his truck into something like a weapon, armored, rebuilt, and painted jet black. It became his revenge road. Every mile he drove was another step closer to retribution. But revenge isn't as simple as it sounds. As Ethan hunted, he began to lose pieces of himself. The more he searched, the less he remembered the man he used to be. Each clue, each whisper of a lead, drew him deeper into the underworld of crime and corruption. He met people who fed his hatred, who used his pain for their own gain, and soon the lines between good and evil began to blur. He wasn't sure anymore whether he was chasing justice or becoming the very monster he despised. One night, he finally found the first man from the crash. The confrontation was fierce and chaotic. Ethan wanted answers, but the man's fear told him everything they hadn't meant for it to happen. It was supposed to be a quick escape, not a murder, but that didn't matter to Ethan. The memory of his wife's last breath burned too deeply. When it was over, Ethan didn't feel satisfaction. Instead, he felt emptiness. The road stretched ahead, silent and endless, as if mocking him, yet he couldn't stop. Revenge had become his only purpose. Every step forward was another step into darkness. He hunted the rest of them, one by one. Along the way, he encountered others broken by the same people: victims, families, strangers who understood his pain. Some begged him to stop, to find peace, but Ethan's heart was closed. His world had become black and white, them and him. Then came the twist, the realization that shattered everything he believed. As Ethan closed in on the final man responsible, he discovered that the crash had been covered up by someone far more powerful. It wasn't just a gang of thieves. It was tied to a corrupt official who had ordered the robbery to fund his own schemes. Ethan wasn't just fighting criminals anymore. He was fighting an entire system built on lies. This discovery reignited something inside him: not just anger, but purpose. He realized his revenge wasn't just personal anymore. It was about uncovering the truth. He gathered evidence, exposed secrets, and began to understand that true justice required more than bullets and rage. But even as he moved toward that goal, the cost of his obsession was visible. His friends had turned away, his home was gone, and he was barely recognizable to himself. As he drove through the night on the final stretch of the revenge road, Ethan began to question everything. What was left after revenge? What would he become if he succeeded? The haunting voice of his late wife echoed in his mind, urging him to stop, to let go before the road consumed him entirely. For the first time, Ethan hesitated. But fate had other plans. When he finally confronted the man behind it all, the encounter was nothing like he imagined. The man was older, weaker, and already dying. The truth was, he had lived in guilt and fear for years, haunted by what he'd done. Killing him wouldn't bring peace. It would only continue the cycle. Ethan stood there, torn between rage and redemption. At that moment, he realized the truth: revenge doesn't heal pain. It multiplies it. The road he had traveled was never about justice. It was about learning how to live again after loss. Ethan dropped the gun and walked away. The storm broke above him, washing away the dust and blood from his face. It wasn't forgiveness that saved him. It was the choice to move forward. But the road never truly ended. As he drove one last time, the horizon stretched endlessly before him, and for the first time in years, he felt a strange calm. He knew the past would always haunt him, but he also knew he didn't have to be its prisoner anymore. Revenge had brought him nothing but ghosts. Letting go was the only way to be free. Revenge Road is a story that reminds us how dangerous obsession can be. It shows how one moment of loss can change a person forever, how anger can disguise itself as justice, and how hard it is to escape the trap of hatred once you step into it. Ethan's journey is symbolic of many who face tragedy, the battle between the desire for payback and the longing for peace. In the end, Ethan's story isn't about victory or defeat. It's about transformation. He starts as a broken man chasing vengeance and ends as someone who learns that true strength lies in forgiveness, not fury. His road was paved with pain, but it led him to a truth that no weapon could deliver, that healing begins when revenge ends. Every choice he made left a scar, but those scars became reminders of what it means to be human. To lose, to hurt, to rage, and to rise again. Revenge Road is both a tragedy and a redemption story, wrapped in the dust and noise of a journey through the human heart. It asks us one simple but powerful question: when revenge is all that's left, who do you become once it's gone? Ethan's story concludes where it began, on the same lonely stretch of road. But this time he isn't chasing anyone. He's driving towards something new, a future uncertain but free from hate. The wind hums through the windows, the sky clears, and for the first time he allows himself to remember love without pain. The road ahead may still be long, but it's finally his to travel, and that's what makes Revenge Road unforgettable. It's more than just a story of loss or violence. It's about the choice every human faces when wronged, to destroy or to rebuild. Ethan's journey reminds us that revenge may feel powerful, but forgiveness is stronger. It doesn't erase the past, but it opens the possibility of a future. As the final miles fade behind him, Ethan understands the greatest victory isn't defeating your enemies, it's reclaiming your soul. His revenge road becomes a redemption road, and that perhaps is the most powerful ending of all. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Revenge Road, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the hardest road leads to the brightest light.